Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paolo Ciuccarelli. I'm the director of the Center for Design, and we are here for the second conversation of the spring series. And as you may know, if you have been in these conversations before, the general idea is to use this opportunity to open up new research directions, to connect with new people, to invite external speakers and share, what we're doing and what are our plans for research, what is our research agenda. And we have covered, in these years, many different topics, always like kind of across different disciplines and different positions have been invited. Today, we have a kind of a slightly different approach because we wanted to share something that is part of our own research agenda, because it comes out and connects with a fellowship program that we have. And Myo Chung and Miso Kim represent this effort that the Center for Design is doing in trying to engage with something connected to AI, but on a different level, a different perspective. And so I'm really happy to have Miso Kim, Associate Professor of Art and Design in CAMD, researcher in service design, experience design and healthcare, and representative of design in the legal design sphere and the new law lab at Northeastern, together with Myo Chung, associate professor of journalism and media innovation in CAMD, researcher in digital media, misinformation and AI, and Center for Design in Belgium. Thank you for joining us, bringing this topic on the table, and I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say, because from my perspective, working with data and algorithm and visualization, I'm really frustrated about seeing how few initiatives are really there for bringing this knowledge of algorithms and data to the people that are affected and impacted by these technologies. And even if I look at the European Union AI Act that is often referenced, because it's been one of the first regulatory frameworks for AI, that is nothing for these people. Like, it's all about experts, policymakers, decision makers, providers of technology, but it's really nothing that can help the people that are ultimately impacted understanding what's going on and what is at stake for them. So thank you for bringing this up. And without further ado, the stage is yours. Whoever want to begin.
Yeah, just to clarify, we are in the early phase of the research project. So we have finished our focus groups, collected wonderful data, and then we are in the process of thematic analysis. So today we wanted to present more of our own research, because this is a perfect conversion of Myo's expertise on algorithmic literacy and my expertise on designing for older adults. So today we are going to majorly show what we have done so far, with maybe a little of what we are doing in this project, but the project aspect will likely to come out more in the responding to the question after the presentation. So we want to more give you inspiration and insights for what joining our two research direction can move forward in the future. With that, would you like to maybe
get started? Yeah. Can I share the screen?
Yep.
And I have to turn on the audio, right?
You don't have to share.
Oh, I don't have to. Oh, so that's mic.
Yes. Unless, do you have a video in here?
I don't.
Okay, then yeah.
Okay, can you see the slide?
TV will be what everyone can see.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay. Slideshow. Okay, yeah. So everyone can see this slide. So thank you so much for having me, and I am very excited to talk about algorithmic literacy, especially for older adults. Well, it should be for everyone, but especially for older adults, and in many sense. So this is today's outline. I will briefly talk about the background and introduce study 1 and introduce study 2, which are relevant to this topic, and then move to our project, which is Bridge Fellowship Project, Center for Design is supporting. So let's start with this picture. So this must be something that you see pretty much every day. Well, not exactly the same, but this is our social media feed. So whenever you go onto social media, you see various kinds of content, but we rarely ask this question: why do you see what you see? And who or what curates your social media feed? And more importantly, what impact does such curation have? So to answer these questions, we need to understand what is behind these news feed or the social media feed. So what's behind this social media algorithms, which is a set of rules to create your feed. It is designed to predict what content will keep you engaging. So what content will make you to click or watch or like or share. So why algorithms are used? The first reason is to personalize, because there are so much information out there. We cannot really check every single content. So algorithms filter endless online content to personalize user experience. So we usually see we don't really see everything out there. We see a portion of information out there. And this personalization can lead to engagement because algorithms create content you'd enjoy or connect you with like-minded people. And that means more revenue for social media platforms, because the longer you stay, the more ads you will see. So that's basically social media platforms' business model. But the thing is, social media platforms prioritize engagement over accuracy. So they don't really care whether this information is accurate or balanced, as long as it can drive engagement. And oftentimes, sensational and biased information can draw more attention, right? So that's the problem. That's the biggest problem of social media algorithms. So a natural question that comes from this background is, how much do people understand these mechanisms? How much do we understand these mechanisms? Or whether this understanding is evenly distributed or not. So that leads to my first study, which is the algorithmic knowledge gap. It was a cross-cultural study. So starting with algorithmic knowledge, it's basically understanding how algorithms filter and present information to you and what implications it might have. And understanding this or knowing this is crucial for user agency and public discourse and democracy, because we need to know like why I am getting this information to make decision, to make informed decision, right? But the problem is algorithms are more like black box. So nobody really understands how it works. And what makes the problem worse is the understanding or the knowledge of the algorithmic mechanism is unevenly distributed. So some people have better understanding, some people have less understanding. And that is creating a new form of digital divide. The digital divide, it's a pretty familiar term, a long-standing concern since the advent of internet and communication technology. But so far, we have focused more on the first level digital divide, which is more like whether we have access to the internet or not, or whether we have access to the computer or not. But more and more scholars are focusing on the second and third level digital divide, because now the first level digital divide is, well, it's still there, but it's not as big problem as before, right? Now more and more people have access to the computer or to the internet, so it's more about something else. So the second level digital divide is more about knowledge to effectively utilize those digital resources. Whether somebody has that knowledge or somebody doesn't have that knowledge. And the third level is real life consequences of that digital divide. So I wanted to focus more on the second and third level in my study, because it was not anymore about the first level digital divide. And this concept of digital divides is getting renewed attention due to the growing role of algorithms, because as I said, some people might have better understanding, some people have less understanding, which is second level digital divide. And then that can have real life consequences, which is third level digital divide. So the hypothesis and argues, I only picked the hypothesis and argue research question that's relevant to this topic, today's talk. So social demographic factors may be associated with algorithmic knowledge, meaning that maybe education, maybe age, maybe income, ethnicity, gender could be associated with algorithmic knowledge. So that was the first hypothesis. Some people have better understanding, some people have less understanding, and one of the factors could be demographic, or social demographic, or social economic status. Second hypothesis was algorithmic knowledge positively predicts intentions to take corrective actions, meaning that if you understand how algorithms filter and create information, you might be more likely to take some actions. Okay, well, that's misinformation, or that's like flagging some kind of like false or biased information. And the research question was, how do algorithmic knowledge gaps differently or similarly manifest across countries? I put this research question because this was 4-country study. And so far, algorithmic literacy or knowledge has been studied mainly in a single country. There could be some difference or some similarities. So basically, it was 4-country survey, US, UK, South Korea, Mexico. Key findings, cross-culturally, we found that there are second-level digital divides. Basically, some people have better understanding, some people have less understanding. There were various factors affecting this, but age was the strongest predictor across all the countries. Well, some countries show like income, gender, some countries show education, gender, some countries show political stance, gender, etc. But age was always there. So that means older adults have less algorithmic knowledge. Younger adults have more algorithmic knowledge. So that brings these older adults to the spotlight, right? This is the most vulnerable population. Algorithmic knowledge led to different levels of intentions to take corrective actions to combat misinformation, showing that, okay, we need algorithmic knowledge to fight misinformation. So the thing is, well, these findings, although interesting, but that creates 2 different types of myths. The first one is younger digital natives, because they have higher algorithmic knowledge or greater algorithmic knowledge, they are better equipped to navigate algorithmic environment, meaning that they are less vulnerable to algorithmic manipulation or misinformation. That's first myth. And the second myth is older adults are very vulnerable. They have no knowledge, they have deficient understanding, and therefore they cannot really deal with, or they cannot really navigate the social media environment well. So that is the second myth. And I wanted to know whether these are true or these are just myths. So that led to my subsequent study, which is overconfident youth, underconfident elders. So older adults, which is the focus of today's conversation. Well, and you guys all have like your parents or grandparents who are using social media or phone, and our general understanding is they are typically categorized as incompetent users as compared to younger users, of course. But research says maybe not really, because some studies show that older adults are more cautious about misinformation. They're more vigilant. Or other studies show that, hey, they don't really have any less metacognitive ability than younger people. Or they are not really digitally incompetent. So I was just curious, what did we miss in my first study? It was not the only study that showed age is a strong predictor of algorithmic knowledge gap. So it was one of the studies, and I wanted to see, what did we miss? So I started focusing on 2 different types of knowledge because I found that previous studies measured only one of these 2. Either subjective knowledge, meaning that users self-assessed understanding. I believe I know this much about algorithm, versus objective knowledge, users' actual ability to accurately evaluate the statements about algorithmic mechanisms and their implications. So there has been no study measuring these 2 together and then compare those 2. And I felt like that could be a gap that I can fill. And I measured both and then calculated metacognitive calibration, meaning that if you deduct objective knowledge from subjective knowledge, it shows how confident you are whether you're overconfident. If your subjective knowledge is bigger than your objective knowledge, meaning that you believe you know more than you actually do, which is overconfidence, right? If your objective knowledge is bigger than subjective knowledge, meaning that you believe you know less than what you actually know, which is underconfidence. And I thought like that might be the factor that we have overlooked, but playing a key role. So research question, how is age associated with algorithmic knowledge miscalibration? And how does algorithmic knowledge miscalibration systematically shape information environment perception? So methods, 2-country survey. Key finding 1, younger adults demonstrate overconfidence, meaning that they believe they know more than they actually do. Versus older adults demonstrate underconfidence. They believe they know less than actually they know. So what I can underconfidence, I love this picture. It isn't so cute. Underconfidence is that like what I can do is like this much, but what I think I can do is like this little. Overconfidence is the opposite. That's the pattern that I found. And key finding 2, underconfident users, meaning older adults in this case, perceive social media information less reliable and less diverse. So they see that, okay, well, I cannot trust social media information. And I don't really think social media content is showing diverse perspectives, which can challenge my own views. So that was the second finding. The implication, age-related differences in reported algorithmic knowledge in the previous studies may reflect calibration differences rather than actual competence gaps. So this could be novel approach. This could inform novel approach in algorithmic literacy because so far it has focused more on how we can increase users' factual knowledge. But this study shows that maybe it's not just about factual knowledge. I'm not saying that we should not enhance factual knowledge, but it's more about improving calibration, like know what you know, like know exactly what you know or know exactly what you don't know, right? So that's the implication. And that leads to this fellowship because this is like, that was really background research for this project, which is bridging algorithmic literacy gaps, designing a digital app to empower seniors. So we wanted to, because I already had the first study which showed that older adults are vulnerable, maybe more vulnerable, right? So we wanted to sort of find a way to educate them better because they may have different learning speed or different needs. So I felt like there should not be one size fits all solution. So the intervention or the education or the literacy intervention should be tailored to older adults. So we first wanted to investigate algorithmic literacy gaps between youth and seniors and design an interactive tool prototype to enhance algorithmic literacy among seniors and evaluate the tool's impact. So as Miso briefly introduced at the beginning, we are doing 2 different types of studies, like mixed method. First, we conducted tailored survey with older adults 65 plus, and then we ran 3 sessions of focus group to see why do older adults underestimate their algorithmic knowledge? Because that was the pattern in the survey. They underestimated their algorithmic knowledge, not only by study 2, but also this specific survey showed exactly the same pattern. They believe they know less than they actually do. And what impact does their underconfidence have on their engagement with social media? And what approach would help enhance their confidence and calibration? Because the goal is not to make them overconfident. It's more about like, they know exactly what they know, right? That's the better calibration. So then these are the questions that we're now exploring when we are analyzing the qualitative data, which is pretty interesting. So that's where we are at this point regarding this project. So we are really connecting algorithmic literacy and older adults. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thank you. So do you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. All right. So now we are going to show some of the work that I have done so that we can give you some hint of what we can potentially do. Right. So looks like this is share full screen. Okay. All right, so thank you for joining the session. So today I'm going to share a few of the service design projects that I did for older adults with focus on the principle of dignity, autonomy, and care. Dignity by dictionary is defined as the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. So you can see two aspects here. It's about worth of being a human, and then it's about honor or respect, which presupposes the existence of other person. So it is actually a social value in harmonious relationship with other people or society. And this social value, the focus has changed over time throughout the human history, from marriage to autonomy to universal rights to interpersonal care. And today I will focus specifically on autonomy and care because that's also some things that are beginning to emerge from our qualitative study. In the Western philosophy, autonomy has been traditionally interpreted as independence and sense of freedom. So it seems like it could be opposing concept to care. However, autonomy and care are actually in quite interesting, complicated, and rich relationship. Maybe autonomy and care can be the same. Maybe autonomy is needed as a basis for care. Maybe care is needed to grow autonomy. So let's look at these different relationships through the project that I have done in the past. So this project is actually one of the earliest projects that I did at Northeastern University in collaboration with Valeria Ramdin, our nursing practicing professor. At this time, we wanted to study what are the patterns and factors of autonomy of older adults with chronic disease. We did observation, interviews, and then also journal study, and then we consolidated these findings into 16 scenarios where we brought these ideas, scenarios to a focus group study with older adults to validate what are the needs in relation to their sense of autonomy. And we had interesting outcome that the number one most desired need was relationship connections. So as you can see from here, we actually discovered that older adults' sense of autonomy is highly relational. And I learned from Valeria that actually there's a term in nursing that they call it relational autonomy. So this is a sense of autonomy that's slightly different from being independent and free, but this is more of a sense of being connected to other people and services and systems that you can actually get the help. In other words, older adults actually preferred having support for making right decision and then taking action to achieve their goal. They preferred to have some support and systematic service, like rather than doing everything by themselves. They had a better sense of autonomy when they had better relationships and connections. We also found that when people need most support in their life after retirement was when they go through transition. For example, giving up driver's license or going through a surgery or moving to senior homes. These were the points when people really need some systematic support from services and other people. So we designed a comprehensive service system that people can be introduced about what can happen after their long life after retirement and then have proper support through the moments that they go through these transitions. And we also designed an interface. And I know you may have a question here. And the common question I get for this slide is, do they feel comfortable using these interfaces? And the question goes back to our focus group session, the outcome that I showed you earlier, because number one need was relationship connection, and number two was technology leadership. They wanted to learn more about technology. That informed my second project about technology literacy. So in this project, we conducted a survey. We began with a survey of more than 100 people to learn about people's needs and patterns and problems in relation to using technology. And what we learned is that actually, they really need some sense of autonomy in relation to ever-changing technology. However, the society is not providing means of sustained education to catch up with like this fast moving technology. And then this is actually resulting them to have less access to care. Because care these days, I mean, you will be able to like think about like many examples top of your head. Many of the care system is increasingly being mediated by technological means. So here, technology literacy is an autonomy that leads to better care. So what we did was that we identified that there are three types of the persona of the interviewees that we met. So for beginners, we designed the bingo game, which can teach them grammar, basic grammar of technology. We also designed a game that they can actually contextualize, like using one app in close connection to their everyday life, like going to a hospital. And then we also designed like a board game for older adults who are quite expert in technology. And they actually desired to teach technology to their friends and relatives and family so that they can enjoy things together. So this is like an app that can present lots of people to try new things together every day. We also created a service blueprint where we designed a student volunteer system for troubleshooting technology and also continued education using this lesson game. We wanted to test this in senior home. However, the week before the planned workshop, COVID landed in America, so we had to cancel everything. Instead, we made like we actually did a remote testing with instructors, people who has experience of teaching older adults, so that we could learn from their like a long experience of interacting with many older adults. And we got positive feedback, and then a lot of like interesting design insights to continue improving the visual and the system. And at this point, I kind of paused and then focused more on other projects. However, this continued to inspire my students who worked on this project. And these students were also like, because of COVID, they had to go back to their home in Vermont and New England and like New Hampshire. And what they did was they continued developing this service and actually make a nonprofit service to teach technology to older adults in their town. So this is actually the first meeting that they had after teaching June to their neighbors using their brochures and service system and blueprints, and like they are connected via Zoom. Look how happy they are. Okay, and now I'm back from my sabbatical, and like now I'm ready to resume my research, which was like a post because of the COVID-19. So I'm collaborating with our professor Sylvia Pierce, to focus more on the game design development aspect. So we are in the process of designing blueprint and also board games and then different card decks to teach people. So it's a research in progress. COVID was an interesting time to conduct research for and with older adults. So this project actually was happening at the same time during the COVID. So as I mentioned, I was like, okay, I should pause all the research about older adults because I cannot contact them. However, at this time, a senior home in New England running 11 senior residents, Peabody Resident Services approached me because they were really concerned about the isolation of their residents. They were concerned about safety and mental health. So in this project, actually, like we began with having meeting with all the staff members, like 34 people via Zoom to collect their ideas and then hear about the problem. What happened was that they were forced to lock down and close everything just one day with the order from the government. So not only the older residents isolated from their friends and neighbors outside of the building, they were isolated from the neighbors, their friends right next door. So they were completely in isolation. So this was a really emergency situation. And in this project, we had to, as a design principle, we had to prioritize care a little more than the autonomy of the older adults. We were basically designing a whole service system to kind of like nudge and a little force older adults to be connected to each other because that was essential for their safety as well. So this was an interesting case that care and autonomy was slightly opposite to separated from each other. So based on the like a brainstorming session via Zoom, we created service blueprint to lay out like what can be the activities and services that we can provide the residents and the staff members to, with the goal of like connecting older adults and having them participate in the event. We also created a design process to kind of like nudge the staff members and older adults to continue joining this like a design process together. And these are some touch point materials we created. Of course, as you can see, we wanted to like desperately connect them to Zoom meetings so that they can actually join these meetings. We created posters and the brochures and newsletters and surveys. So we also created cards so that they can easily see next to their phone to remember how to connect to Zoom meetings. So these are some design artifacts. An interesting aspect was that we could not go into the building. We could not meet older adults. And then we couldn't even call them because older adults, actually, they really tend to not answer to phone numbers that they don't know. They are very afraid of being scammed. As you mentioned, they are very sensitive about it.
Yeah, they're more vigilant.
Yeah, they are really, yeah, absolutely. So we were basically designing for people we couldn't meet. So what we did was actually actively engaging the staff members because they were in the building. They were only people who could go between the work inside and outside. So they served as our team members, designers. So we created these things together and then planned for different activities. For example, we planned and designed a service blueprint for a sing-along event with the volunteer of the Boston University music students. We planned that, okay, students should come, and then as you can see, they have best space outside of the building. So they would like play music and then just turn around the building, and then older adults would open their window and sing along. That was our plan, and then President Trump caught COVID. So everything was canceled. It was an interesting time. However, instead, they, of course, like did this concert via Zoom. We redesigned the service blueprint really quickly so we could organize the event. We also planned for and like we also designed other events and services like art sessions and also like this like a Halloween event. So this is one of the Halloween party that we did together. And as I mentioned, like what was really impressive was the active role of the staff members. So what we did eventually was we wanted to encourage their creative autonomy. So in this project, I feel like I think we need more follow-up like a project to like nurture the autonomy of the senior residents. But we definitely did nurture the creative autonomy of our staff members because we gave them the template made of Canva. Canva is quite easy to use and it's free. And then actually these are things that they created, staff members created by them. So they became a designer to make these materials and then install everything in the building. So good news is that now COVID is over. So the older adults and the residents and staff members are having these events in like a person. They are still continuing to use the template that we gave them. And then they are now organizing this health information session to increase nurture health autonomy of older adults. And then they are actually like now this is becoming more co-design session that they are also having the active engagement and autonomy of the older residents as well. But these are all led by staff members. We are like, I moved to the next project. So this is quite interesting to see what happens even after a designer leaves the service. With that, I will move to our last project. So this was a project to study the impact of COVID-19 on older adults with HIV. This was a case that shows that care actually leads to better sense of autonomy. This was an interesting population, very different from other older adults that I have met, because as you see at the bottom, 21 people out of 22 had smartphone. This was the highest number of people owning a digital like a device that I have ever seen among people over 65 at the time. However, not many of them are utilizing social media. I wondered why, and then in their interview, we learned that actually they have a local support group that they attend in person. And they felt like there are things that they cannot easily share on social media, but there are some very sensitive information and life stories that only they themselves, people with HIV, can share and understand. So support group was essential for these people. However, COVID-19, of course, disconnected this relations because it was all in-person events. Based on the finding, we designed some services and then came up with ideas to conduct a co-design session with our user group. And out of this co-design session, the most popular idea was having mentorship online, and then also having offline cooking session. So this became a good inspiration for our next development of idea. And this essentially shows that they want to enrich their support group, however, in online and offline in multiple dimensions. So this is a service blueprint for the platform that we designed. Basically, our idea was to create a social media platform service for older adults with HIV, and not only older adults, intergenerational connection was essential in this platform. And these are some of our early ideas. So these are some interfaces. We thought in this group it will be proper to design apps and interfaces because, as I mentioned, they are already familiar with technology. The idea was to provide one-on-one mentorship for people with HIV, and then also bring it to a larger group event opportunities in the places where they are living. So basically, the older adults with HIV who we interviewed desired to become mentor. So it was not that they wanted to be care. They wanted to give up care to younger generation, people who newly got HIV, and they wanted to give information and care that they wish they had in the past when they were younger. And for them, giving care was the basis of autonomy. So we are continuing to develop this idea, and this is some example of the interfaces, which got quite positive feedback in our follow-up evaluation session. So we are in the process of applying to NIH grant, and it's actually becoming a little unstable because of the government, but we are continuing to apply. So these are some of the projects that I have done, which I think shows interesting relations between autonomy and care. Right?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, questions online, in person. Do you have any questions for both Myo and Miso? I have plenty, but I want first to do. Yeah.
Question for Miso. So my research touches on both concepts, autonomy and care, but in a completely different context. I'm an embedded ethnographer, so I work with AI and robotics engineers. I was watching them develop humanoid robots, and so the autonomy, trying to become autonomous, develop autonomous robots to take care of elder adults, solve aging issues or aging population issues, and then care kind of just comes out because the autonomy is supported by tons of human care. So I kind of just I was really having a difficult time to understand, I guess going through my research to figure out what is care, what are those people doing, and then I identified different dimensions of, I guess, care. So I kind of just wonder how did you conceptualize care, and how did you conceptualize autonomy? What are the definitions? How do you, I guess, figure out this? What's autonomy?
First of all, I totally understand where you're coming from because whenever I upload papers and chapters about autonomy, and whenever I conduct a literature review, I know what the research that's done in the field of design about autonomy is. machine autonomy.
Yeah,
Artificial autonomy, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's quite interesting to see, and it inspires us to think about what is autonomy.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's just, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, no. Actually, I think it's a perfect moment to go back to our more dimensions of divinity.
I'm based here in Norwegian, but I do my research in UT Tech, UT Austin. Texas. Yeah.
So autonomy, I actually see it as like interaction between individual and environment. So this environment includes other people. So it's group of other people. And then you are an agent in this world, like taking care of you are planning your action. You have a goal. You want to achieve your action. And then like you are interacting with your environment as a singularity. And then you are going navigating through this world. It's all about your action capability, sense of control, and then like affordance, speed forward, everything about your action. Versus interpersonal care is slightly different. It could be about individual to individual relationship. So in this world, other humans are not part of the environment, but other humans. Another individual, which is like complicated universe and cosmos by itself. And this person is totally subjective.
Yeah.
And it's all about emotion, empathy, respect, and also inviting this person to have a chair and like making sure that this person has a role to join like other people. That sense of belonging from a personal care perspective. So I think a good place to begin differentiating this is autonomy. It's about me as an agent. All other people are environment. I will interact with you. Versus interpersonal care is about you and me. I know that you are subjective to me, and then I will communicate to you to convince you, emotionally impact you, all about the world of subject and emotion. That's how I begin. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes sense. I had to borrow a bunch of literature from nursing studies to really distinguish different dimensions of care, what constitutes care, and what I was seeing, like surprisingly in humanoid robotics development side. I was like, wow, those human roboticists are taking care of those robots who are supposed to be taking care of us. So this interesting care supporting autonomy sort of relationship.
You can also like visualize, like so if it's about like a smart home, including robot, I am the older adult having the robot as part of the home system take care of me. So do you like see how it's me, agent, and then robot is part of the environment, the whole system. There should be more like the ecosystem and knowledge behind it. If we see it from the perspective of interpersonal care, it's me as an agent and robot as the agent. It's about between you and me. A lot of emotions and the communications and then different layers.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for
Perspective.
explaining that.
Good. I'm glad it's helpful.
Any other questions from online person? Go ahead.
It is a question for data algorithm development project. I have audited a few focus group studies. The discussion, someone mentioned that they were actually happy with the outcomes of the algorithm.
Oh yeah, because it is convenient, right?
Yes, it is convenient, and they enjoy being pushed to whatever interesting to them.
Right.
So, what do you think that is a balance or negotiable point, or like what can we compromise in this situation in order for their engagement? Should we give up some part of accuracy?
Well, I don't really think we have to push them to think negatively about algorithms. It's not necessarily the point. It's more about they have a balanced view. They can be delighted. I remember that remark too from the focus group. So he audited the focus group, and like some people said, like, yeah, it's really convenient. If I want to find the Christmas gift for my granddaughter, it really shows all the, like all the information that I need. And like, I don't really need to go anywhere to find more information. And for sure, that's the positive side of algorithm. And it's really filtering out unnecessary information oftentimes. But at the same time, so I'm not really saying we have to ignore that positive aspect or ignore the positive feelings toward algorithms, but at the same time, if they can see, yeah, sometimes it can be convenient, but it also can, for instance, like narrow the scope of information that I can get from like people, because algorithms are basically showing content that might engage you more, meaning that you're interested in it. But at the same time, that means it only shows information that can make you happy. And sometimes making you happy doesn't mean that making you like giving you the most balanced information, right? So I think they need to see both sides rather than like, okay, algorithms are like, evil, and then we have to hate it. I don't really think that's the goal of the research or the goal of algorithmic literacy. It's more about balance.
Like you impact the object to your.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I know that there are some positive sides, but at the same time, there could be some, like some concerning aspects. So having those, like both sides would be very important.
That's actually interesting differentiator that can also connect back to autonomy and care. Because basically, I'm a person who like even if I need a Christmas gift, if the algorithm shows me Christmas gift, I immediately feel bad.
Very suspicious.
Right. However, I was really impressed in that focus group session to hear that actually our participant was happy that the algorithm was providing like a curated information support
Right.
for Christmas
Too.
gift, right?
Yeah.
Caring is
Yeah.
So I think this is quite interesting dynamic of care giving coming from the algorithm versus my sense of autonomy. I know my role. I'm going to execute it. And I know what are the options that I need. Okay, don't tell me what to do, right? This kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a balance.
Maybe that's an interesting pattern for older adults, especially because they believe or they perceive that they are technologically not very, competent. And therefore, if somebody can do the shopping for me, right? It's like
that's
like
really
a shopper kind of concept. And I think my mom is someone like that, because she really loves all the, like all the recommendations on her social media or like shopping list, because she doesn't have to go anywhere to find more information. And she lacks the energy. Well, she has plenty of time, but lacks the energy. So probably older adults might appreciate that convenience more than any other population. Well, I don't know, but
that is relational autonomy,
right.
isn't it? It's a compromised autonomy, but they have gone through time and then they have wisdom and generosity to forgive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. More generous, right?
So there's a comment online that I wanted to share because I think can be seen as a kind of a question is someone that is working as a product designer or an AI-based product, and there's a curiosity about how to integrate accessibility and educational principle while when you develop, I guess, AI-based product. So if you develop that product and that's AI, how can we make sure, I'm interpreting the question, that it's accessible and that can, even teach something about the AI that is embedded. So, is there anything that emerges from your research that can help anybody that is designing products or services that incorporate AI to make sure that it's accessible? That any insights that you think can help with the accessibility of AI-based products and services?
That's a profound question. And I think we are beginning to actually now move into that phase to think about how we can analyze the finding from our focus group and then interpret it into design principles. And I think from top of my head, I am intuitively seeing the pattern, the principle of autonomy and principle of care already beginning to emerge from our ethnographic study. So maybe you can begin to think about it, so in a sense, autonomy is the user having sense of action, very active, versus care is maybe the agent, AI being very active. So what are the different combinations of dynamic between these two push and pushback relationships? Maybe that can be the beginning point to think about it as principle. Maybe there's no right or wrong answer. It can be, maybe for some services, more active user is proper. That can be better experience. Maybe in other services, especially education, care, coming from making right decision supported by AI, maybe that could be more important. However, I believe that in most comprehensive, most of the comprehensive big services, there are layers that you have to think about all these together. That you have to think about autonomy, you have to think about care, you have to think about merit perspective, you have to also think about human rights. So yeah, I think seeing them as like a layered lasagna is also always helpful approach in service design. I don't know if this answers your question, but we are also beginning to move forward like a design principle. So hopefully what we are learning in this space can also inform you as well. Any thoughts?
So what I see is that, so does it mean that care is more about, let's say, the service of the product interacting with you, and autonomy is more about how you can interact with the product? So that
It can be
Right.
like one of the ways to see it.
that's
Yeah,
Right.
this activeness and passiveness, this pair as a research topic has always interesting for me.
yeah, absolutely. So I was curious about something that may relate also to your work. That is because when it's about algorithms, robots that taking care of someone,
Right?
I see care. I see empathy, for example, as part of care. So how do you empathy?
Empathy, yeah.
How do you, I don't know if that's correct to see empathy as part of care. If so, if empathy is really a component of care, how do you put that into? How do you make them bad? How do you make
Yeah.
robots and algorithms being able to express that?
Well, they can. That's my argument. They can. That's why especially the human industry, all these robots are, advertised as, we have elderly people, we gotta take care of them. So the robots should be able to provide care for them. But based on your research, autonomy, the number one factor of autonomy is relationship connection. That's very much relational. And those robots, those technologies are not going to provide the sort of empathy relationship, real, I guess, real kind of care to humans. So I don't think we can do that. So I think that's also a good argument to say that we can't use technology to solve something fundamentally human, right? And yeah, I think.
Yeah, are you saying that we shouldn't be using care for okay?
No. I think we shouldn't use technology to solve a fundamental human problem.
But maybe technology can help create more opportunities
Yeah.
for people to connect with, right?
Yeah.
For example, I need to call my grandma. I have been postponing for 3 weeks. And maybe there can be ways that technology can somehow recognize that. So it looks like you're taking a rest. Good chance that Korea this is 2 p.m. Right? Take it a new opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. Technologies can facilitate some of the processes the elderly adults need, but they can't just replace humans to do the empathy work, right? But from the human side, I see empathy from the humans, the roboticists, in the process of administering care for robots. It's a very emotional process that we typically don't think about. We think about technology development as objective, as linear. There's no emotions, but it's quite the opposite.
You also inspire me to think a little differently. Maybe I was actually in this presentation introducing the concept of autonomy versus the concept of care. However, maybe it can be a different model. Maybe there's this autonomous human agent, autonomous technology agent, and then maybe care is the relationship between these two agents. So care by itself can be active, passive, equal, or maybe just broken, right? So care can be the line.
Good idea. I'll need to think about that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I love this kind of conversation. It's
It's a
open.
conversation,
It's open.
right?
Yeah, if nobody has another question, I have one more that is, we briefly mentioned literacy, but what is literacy?
What is it? Yeah, right.
Meaning, because it's, if I think I have an idea of literacy that comes to me, it's more linked to data, and it's what people are supposed to should know about data when they. But I'm curious in your areas, what is the literacy?
I define literacy, well, not I, but based on previous studies and like all the, the research findings, definition of algorithmic literacy has actually 3 different dimensions or 3 different steps. So it can start with knowledge, but knowledge itself cannot really make literacy full. So starting with knowledge and then moving to attitude and then moving to behavior. So if you, for instance, understand how algorithms filter and create content on social media, let's say, that's knowledge. You understand, like, well, if I click this, if I like this, if I spend more time on this post, if I share this with my friend, or my demographic information like age or location or gender might affect what content is recommended to me. So that's your basic understanding, basic knowledge. But having that understanding can lead you to have some kind of attitude or feeling toward these algorithms. Maybe it's concerning or it's convenient. It's delightful or whatever attitude you might have. And then that attitude can lead to behavior, which could be, I want to use ad block function, or I want to be more cautious about clicking or liking, because I don't want algorithms to catch that as my interest, because I don't want to see this information more, kind of thing. So literacy is having all 3 portions rather than just knowledge per se. But it starts with knowledge, and therefore I mainly focus on knowledge from the in the first place. But it should not stop at knowledge. It should lead to behavior eventually, which is making people more informed users of social media content.
But does it mean that you need the first to get to the second?
Right, yeah, exactly. Without knowledge, you might not be able. You might have attitude, but that's like sort of baseless attitude or behavior. Right. So you need to have knowledge first, then they can shape your attitude, and then they can shape your.
Yeah, one issue I see, and that's same maybe for data, but it's more for algorithms. There are even experts that don't fully grasp what's going on.
Yeah, exactly, and then it keeps changing.
Yeah, so
right?
I'm curious how do you think we can transfer that knowledge that is
that's
not
true
consolidated in
right, that's a great that's a really good question, and it's really valid concern because, for instance, social media platforms keep changing their algorithms and they don't really let people know how they change it. For instance, like back in 2022, I think it was 22, one former employer at Facebook, she turned into a whistleblower, and then she actually leaked how Facebook was weighing emojis to decide like what content to recommend. And a shocking revelation was that they actually weigh angry emoji 5 times more than happy or like emoji, because that can sort of like, it can make the content more sensational. We typically think, okay, well, if this like lovely puppy picture gets like 1,000 likes, it should go viral, instead of whatever conspiracy theory they got like 50 angries, but it's actually the opposite. So she leaked it, and then she said like Facebook knows it can harm people, because there was like Rohingya massacre like in 2017, and Facebook was actually charged for that incident, or that tragic incident. And it was because Facebook knew that this hatred remarks or hatred content is going viral, but they just stopped it because it's making money, right? So they prioritize profit over accuracy or any kind of like ethics. But after that whistleblowers leakage, Facebook announced that, hey, we changed this algorithm. So we're not really valuing angry emojis any more than like emoji or smile or like, thumbs up emoji. But they didn't really tell us like how they changed it, whether they changed it to 4 times more than like, or whether they changed it to 10 times. They just said like, we changed it, right? And I'm pretty sure it keeps changing. So it's not like my understanding or my definition of algorithmic knowledge is not really to make ourselves computer science. We don't really need to understand all the coding or like whenever it changes, we have to keep up with the change. It's more about even if they keep changing the algorithms, the basic formula, not really formula, but the fundamental idea to engage the audiences more. And that engagement will be based on our individual data, will not change. It's more about the formula that changes. So I think what we need to understand is about the basic fundamentals rather than the actual formula, which keeps changing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And with AI, it's even probably more complicated.
Yeah.
Even if you want to disclose everything, but then how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The way it works
Yeah.
is itself much more complex and even uncertain than it was for the algorithms and
Right.
filtering social media.
Yeah.
But AI models are even more.
Yeah, it will be
complex to
impossible.
explain.
I think it will be nearly impossible to keep up with whatever changes they make. But if we understand the fundamentals, then that will sort of like protect us from the harms more than like when we don't know.
To add on that, based on my working with engineers, AI engineers and roboticists, a lot of times they don't even know why it's working. They're constantly changing things, improvising, adding more things to see if 1 out of 10 times that's working. So, oh, cool, let's go with it. They don't know.
Yeah.
So they can't
Even they cannot explain, right?
Exactly.
So what you're seeing in your work, so you've got to be older adults, like with your research.
Yeah.
Where you start with older adults, and then how your
We met at the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you converge, and then how do you think this convergence can develop in the future? Because it seems very interesting. Your perspective on innovation, media innovation, and journalism and media, and your service design perspective, how this can develop into an integrated research.
So when I saw this fellowship call, I was already thinking about algorithmic literacy, and I was thinking about specific population because my initial study found there is algorithmic knowledge gap. And like some people have better understanding, some people have less understanding. And older adults were one of the most, least knowledge equipped group based on the findings. And I'm thinking, well, but this population is completely different from, other population in many ways. And they might need very tailored approach or tailored intervention. And what can be done? That was the first thought. And I'm thinking, I don't really know a lot about design, but this should involve design perspective rather than just theoretical model from media or communication or journalism. Because it's more about co-designing to serve this population rather than I just sit on the desk and then, hey, they might need this. So I was thinking that way, and I knew that Miso is in, design sector, and I just approached her, and then she had expertise in all of those. So that's how we clicked. And then do you want to answer the second part?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So actually, in the beginning, in the proposal, we laid out a plan to create a digital interface, or more specifically, an app. However, it's turning out quite differently. Yeah, I think they actually would prefer watching. We got a lot of feedback, like watching video or having
reading.
Yeah, something in person, or like there being instructors. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like we will need to develop a multi-dimensional comprehensive service to support different needs. So that's the direction that we are going for, and like we have more to work together with our lot, like with our wonderful virtual assistant.
Yeah, the focus group actually we built. Yeah, that was a really eye-opening moment because when we were writing the proposal, we thought like developing an app, but the actual target audiences. So, and I think that's the beauty of co-design. They said like, we are not gonna download another app. We really don't want to do that. And that's also, there could be, some kind of technological barrier. I don't want to study another app. So that was our misunderstanding of like, hey, ad would help them. And imagine if we just developed the app without asking them and then nobody will use it. So that's what we found. And so we are little like redesigning the approach to the this is what's always fascinating about doing going through human-centered design process, that we always get to learn new things and most creative things from the users.
Yeah, one issue is that if you develop an app, that's something that it's on the store and can download it and kind of scalable, so you can serve a large audience. But then if you go into some more specific person formats or something like the templates, the toolkits that you develop, that's more difficult to scale and to share and to distribute.
Right.
But then I see that some of them, they are taking action, so they're getting involved, so they become themselves like part of the process. How do you see them, like the older adults becoming part of this process of like of this literacy programs? Like they can become agents or actors.
Right, exactly. They can be the instructor eventually, right?
Yeah.
And peer instruction could be more effective than anything, especially when it comes to older adults, I guess, because they know what peers might not understand.
Right.
They know the points that could be difficult to their peers because they've been through the stage. Because to us, for instance, or to younger people, like for instance, even me, like my daughter said, like, "Hey, how come you don't understand that?" And I'm like, I have no idea. So I'm pretty sure, like, what is taken for granted for us might not be the same for older adults, and older adults understand that better. Like, I know this is not easy to everyone of my age, and then they can start from there. So I think they can have more tailored instruction once they have this training. So it could be more like, we educate a group of older adults, and they can educate their peers, and those can educate their peers.
It's like a grassroots movement. And actually we have support from the technology literacy research that we have done, because there are three groups: beginner, intermediate, and expert. Experts are people who are retired professors or like worked in hospital, but they are quite familiar with technology. And what seems to be quite different for this group is that they are not afraid of trying new things. That seems to be a big thing, getting over the fear
Right.
and bothersomeness of like learning new things. They are not like afraid of that, and then they are just dying to teach it to other people. They are like, "Oh my God, please, let's go to like have this fun concert with me." But you're not doing that. Why? So I totally agree that there's a great creative potential for this group, and
and that reminds me of one news article that I recently read. So it's like back in South Korea, kiosk is everywhere. If you want to order food at a restaurant or food court, there's no human anymore. So you have to go to the kiosk and then you have to order. And that's super intimidating to older adults. And I know that because, like, for instance, my mother-in-law, I cannot go out anywhere anymore because there's nothing I can do by myself, like to order something, right? That's sad. But one small town, they actually open a class for older adults to learn how to use kiosks, and they use those as sort of kiosk ambassadors. Because if younger people teach older adults how to use kiosks, that's more intimidating. Hey, well, it might be so easy to you, but not to me. But they dare not to say that, right? But if their peers are teaching, they can ask some questions like, wait, can you repeat that one more time? Or like, I don't get it. They don't really have to be shy. So that really worked well. I read the article. So that's, I think, exactly aligning with what you just said.
That's a great inspiration. And I agree. Humiliation seems like one of the biggest barriers for like learning new thing, and especially technology. I think there's a cultural factor as well. Because in Asia, we have a culture that we respect elders, and then elders are supposed to teach. They are supposed to be
know everything.
Wisdom. So I hear the stories that in front of the kiosk, older adults are taking time to learn what it is, and then they are beginning to sweat because they see lines of younger people
right.
and then they feel pressure, humiliation,
Yeah.
and they cannot dare to ask them to teach them because of the culture.
Right. But if like people with their like over their age come and then, hey, you can do this, follow me, these are the steps, it's way easier for them to accept rather than like people in their 20s coming, well, do you want to follow me? And that's too fast. Can you slow down? They cannot say that. So.
Oh, that's really interesting that we replace humans with these machines, and then we need humans to teach other humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As a kind of
but there are always people who are slow learners, but we are not. We have been, I think, overlooking them too much. Yeah.
That's no, it made me think about it. That we've always had like users, so users are way ahead, with any products and solutions.
Right.
They may become even more important in that space. So having users that are particularly well versed towards something, a solution that can become part of something that revolves around the solution, so that can have other users engage, or they can have a role that is maybe even more important than in other cases. So these users that are experts that's interesting. It can become a new relationship with these people and, let's say, brand that is developing a solution or a service or a product.
Right.
And that's interesting. How are we with time? I think we are. But do you have any other question or comments? If not, maybe you want to closing statement from both of you, or what are future plans, and then we wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So go ahead.
Okay, all these
What's
very
next?
inspiring.
What's next?
Yeah, thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions and for being here. And this was also a great chance for us to see the history of the research that each of us have done. And then now we are having more design inspirations, and then next step. Okay, we have to make things before how long graduate.
Yeah. Not an ad though.
Oh yeah, but I think that connection to meta design is actually quite interesting.
What do you mean?
It's a meta design. We will be designing for these people to become the designer of their educational experience for other people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so we will be making tools.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on your side?
This is my first time to collaborate with design sector.
Oh, how is it going?
It's cool. Yeah. Oh no, it's actually second time. Yeah, it's my second time. So, and I learned before, to me, design was more really vague concept, like designing furniture, right? Or a chair, or designing your clothes. But I realized, okay, everything is actually design. Yeah, everything is about designing. And I am here finally. and it's really making a solid bridge to the real world between my research and the target audience. But because without design, I can only see what people are thinking about and what they are seeing as their barriers, but we cannot really go to the answer, or make an impact. Exactly, make an impact. So that's what we're pursuing in this project, and I think we're going pretty well. The focus group gave us lots of interesting findings and insights, especially when it comes to design. There were many things the older adults were asking for or longing for, which we wouldn't be able to imagine without hearing from them, right? Because we've never been to that stage yet. So I think it would turn into, I hope it will turn into really useful or inspirational tool for older adults, which I can introduce to my parents as well. Because I'm a very concerned daughter. Like, hey, you were watching YouTube too much, and do you happen to know like how you or what decides what you see? They probably not. So even if they are educated, really well educated, it doesn't really mean they understand. So they really need this help, and I hope we can be part of it.
I'm always thinking that I'm designing for myself in the future too.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, that's a great closure, like, having two disciplines discovering each other and, we're a promising research trajectory together. So that's very interesting. Just closing by reminding what's next for the Center for Design. We will not have a conversation in March because we have the Design Research Week happening. So it's a full week of events, talks, keynotes, workshops, and whatnot around design research happening from March 16th to 22nd, closing with the Scout conference Entangled. It's a full day of a conference with many speakers and from different design corners. And so, no conversations, but a full week of events on design research. That's all for today. And thank you again for joining.
Thank you.